Welcome to Healing Your Families. I'm Emmalou Penrod, and I help you as a parent go from frustration, stress, and overwhelm to calm, confidence, and joy so that you can achieve the quality of family life that you desire. In our last episode, we talked about the 4 parenting styles, and this is based on the research of Diana Baumrind in the last century. She was a well-known psychologist who studied families and parenting. And in the 1960s, she suggested that there were basically 4 parenting styles. And we talked about that and the research that has been done in the decades since on these different styles and the effect they had on children. We talked about a study that was done in 1991 and published in the National Library of Medicine that indicated that the authoritative style was most effective. So we're going to dive more deeply. We're going to examine more closely what makes up this parenting style. How does one achieve this level of parenting? And I want to state right up on the outset that there is no one correct way to parent. Situations vary from one family to another, from one child to another, sometimes from one day to another. It isn't so much a specific list of things to do or things not to do, as much as it is an attitude, a way of being, an approach. I'm reminded of the story my mother told me about when she first became a mother. And this was back in the late 1930s, early 1940s. And she told me that the government had printed out a pamphlet, a guide to parents on care and feeding of infants. And being the diligent woman that she is, my mother was determined to follow it to the letter. And this is at a time when bottle feeding was on the rise. That was considered the new scientific best way to nourish a baby. And they also believed in that strict 4-hour schedule. So my mother recalled vividly times when she was standing outside the bedroom to the nursery with one hand on the doorknob and the other hand watching her wristwatch to when that time, it had been exactly 4 hours, so that she could open the door and go in and pick up her crying baby. My heart just ached for her. So we're not talking that kind of parenting, that kind of exactness. So I want to review the graphic we had last week. So I'm just going to take a minute and pull that up so we can take a look at that and go over it. So here we are. I'm going to move myself out of the way. And this is showing these graphs of the vertical line is talking about the responsiveness. It's measuring this scale about how responsive parents are to the needs of their children, how involved they are, how much they interact with their children. And the horizontal line, like the axis, is talking about the expectations they have, the standards they set for their children. And as you can see, this authoritative style that was ranked as the most effective was high both in responsiveness, how much the parents put into that relationship, and also how much they required or expected of their children. And it is these 2 qualities that make this the most effective parenting style. So let's take a look at that. What does that look like? Well, just again, remembering that we're focusing on those two aspects, being highly responsive, engaged in the life of their children, and also holding high standards for their children. Well, there are 8 approaches, 8 ways of doing this. And the interesting thing is that they go in pairs. So let's take a look at them 2 at a time, starting with the first 2. The first one is expressing warmth and nurturing, and the second one is listening to children. Well, it makes sense that they go together. We're showing our love, our care, our nurturing to our children, and we're listening to that. That's one of the best ways to show that love and nurturing to children, is by listening to them. And it looks like this. Love is expressed verbally, physically, with hugs and kisses, with time spent together, creating happy memories. Each child feels loved and cherished. It also means listening to them, really actively listening to them, where your total focus is on your child. You're creating a safe space for them so that they can share their fears, concerns, questions, worries. They can feel that they are free to connect. And this is when you form that bond with them that can last a lifetime. When children are small, they love to be with you. So if you start to build that bond of trust and love, they see you as a mentor. Then when they reach those turbulent teen years, you become that trusted adult that they can confide in. This is that time in life when they're faced with decisions that will impact them for the rest of their life. They need an adult mentor, someone they can confide in and talk to, who listens to them. And it's all about that unconditional love. You know, it's easy to love our children when they're well behaved and they're doing what we've asked them to do. But the times when your child needs your love the most is the times when they're being the most unlovable. So it's that ability to separate the child from their behavior. The behavior needs to be addressed. It needs to be corrected or improved in. You know they'll be happier if they learn a better way of approaching life. And the child needs to be loved. Loved no matter what. That is a critical part of parenting. Now the third way is placing limits, consequences, and expectations. Remembering it was that authoritative parenting style ranked high in that area as well. And the fourth goes right along with it, administering fair and consistent discipline. So what does that look like? Well, it ranges from everything to just teaching them personal hygiene, teaching them how to take care of their body, and that there's a routine. So before we go to bed at night, we brush our teeth. And there's a routine of how we take care of our bodies, how we take care of our belongings. When we eat, establishing that structure that helps give children that security. You know, children need structure. They need to know what to expect, what's going to happen when. Things like, when are we going to eat? What is expected of me? And also, curfew. Establishing what is the time they need to be home. And if you've, as parents, as you build this bond, this trust with your child when they're young, then as they get older, they learn that these expectations are because my parents love me, they care about me, they want me to be safe. And in addition to having that structure, those rules, There's also knowing what the consequence will be, making sure that it's fair and consistent. The most dangerous environment for a child is one in which they don't know what's going to happen. They don't know if mom and dad are going to come home from work and fly off the handle at the slightest little thing, or if they're going to come home and not even care what they do. So knowing the rules are clear and the consequences are understood and they're administered with love. Anytime we need to correct our child, we're reassuring them, we're teaching them, we're using this as instruction, time to teach them better behavior, a better way to live, and we're following it up with love, making sure they know that we love them. And the fifth method is allowing children to express their opinions. The sixth one is discussing options. Now this goes along with a parenting style that is high in responsiveness and also high in expectations. The communication is two-way. We're listening to their opinions and discussing options. It's not an exact, it has to be this way. Here are some examples. So, a common situation mothers face now is working from home and having set times when they need to be in a Zoom meeting. So, this explaining, this is the situation, this is the time I need to be in the Zoom meeting, I need to be giving this my focus. And establishing, okay, kids want mom's attention. Then, how about, while I'm in the meeting, you can go and draw a picture, create something, and then when my meeting is over, you can show it to me and we can have time together then. But recognizing their needs, their opinions, and communicating with them about it. Here's another example. In this, you can see the mother has just become angry with her daughter and she just threw the daughter's cell phone. She probably got annoyed with the daughter for constantly having her phone. That's a common hot issue in many families. What is the structure around the electronics? When can they use them? Can they have them by them at the dinner table? Well, it looks like this mother just got annoyed, grabbed that phone, and just tossed it. Now, in the second picture, you can see they're enjoying a meal together. They're using this time maybe to share progress of their day, communicate, just bond. And I'm quite certain that this second picture didn't happen after the first one. It probably occurred after some time talking about electronics. When do we use them? When is it okay? When is it not appropriate? Maybe they even talked about setting a basket on the counter in the kitchen. And as family members come into the meal, their electronic devices go into the basket. Remember that the most effective way you teach your children is by your example. So mom and dad lead the way. They put their phones in the basket, and it's agreed that mealtime is a time to spend with family members, to communicate, to strengthen those family bonds. And here's another example. In some families, nutrition is very important. And if your family is one of those, maybe you have strong desires for your children to eat more of a plant-based diet, to eat more vegetables and fruit. And sometimes this can become a real issue in families. And sometimes understanding their opinions, listening to their concerns. In some cases, in children with ADHD or autism, there are some neurological differences, and some of them develop a texture issue. There are some foods they just gag on how it feels in their mouth. So considering their opinion, maybe giving them more options. Some families like to take their children to a farmer's market or a place where they're able to actually sample, get little pieces of different kinds of fruits and vegetables and try them. And deciding, what vegetables do we want to try this week? And if the more choice children have, the more involved they are, the more buy-in there is. They're much more likely to support something that they've had some say in than just an order from an adult. So the more choice you can give them, the more they accept it, the more they feel included. Now, for example, if the structure is we eat nutritious foods, you might not want to give them the choice of do you want to eat vegetables or not, but you could say, do you want to eat broccoli or peas? And considering their opinion, safeguarding that. Also, being wise enough to choose your battles and decide what matters most. And if it's something that is so important to you as a parent, communicating that with their child and explaining why you feel it is so important for them to eat vegetables or to eat nutritious foods. Now, I have a 9-year-old granddaughter that I just thoroughly enjoy spending time with. She is so much fun. She's extroverted and outgoing. We love to be together. And I want these experiences to always be positive. I want her to feel like spending time with Grandma is always fun. We quite often go swimming, or we go to a park and play, or to museums, aquariums. And usually what happens is she would like to stay a lot longer than I can, or that I'm interested in, or that my schedule allows. So we talk about that. We'll talk about a time frame. And then at some point, as we near the end of our time there, I will ask her, do you want to leave in 15 minutes or 20? And she gets to choose. And she usually chooses 20 minutes. But it has become her choice. And time to leave has become much more pleasant. And we're able to maintain that, keep it a positive experience. So being aware of their needs and maintaining a structure keeps it a positive interaction for both of us. So number 7 in that the parenting that is most effective in raising children who become happy, resilient adults is 7 is fostering independence and reasoning, and 8 is teaching them they are capable. Now, we also talked last time about a parenting style that was called helicopter parenting, and this is the parent that is so worried about their child being hurt or injured that they just hover like a helicopter, ready to rush in and rescue their child. However, another part of this quality of parenting is being able to take a long-term perspective, being able to focus on what is in the best interest of the child. And one of the main reasons we don't give children whatever they want is because as adults we understand that sometimes what they want isn't in their best interest. And sometimes in their best interest we have to tell them no. But it's also teaching them new skills. letting them learn how to ride a bike, teaching them appropriate safety precautions, but letting them learn that they can do things for themselves. Many parents feel that their goal is to never do anything for the child that the child could do for themselves. And the reasoning behind this is, remember the last time you accomplished something difficult, maybe even something you didn't think you could do, and yet you did it, and you felt that warm feeling of yes, achievement, progress, success. Well, we want our children to have that too. Let them have that experience of learning a new skill, overcoming a challenge. Here is a young girl who looks like she's developing an interest in sewing, helping them discover their interests. A lot of research has been done on school. What's the best curriculum for children? And one that actually began in the 1960s is called the Sudbury model. And this is based on a child-centered curriculum. Research has been done. It was started as a school in Massachusetts, and they'd been collecting research all these years on what happens to graduates of their school. This philosophy is that the child is encouraged to discover their interest, their passions, what they want to learn more about. And then in the course of pursuing this passion, it will naturally bring in math and reading and writing and other subjects. And students who went through the Sudbury School in Massachusetts, as they collected data on them, they found out they were much more likely to seek high education, to go on to higher learning. They were much more likely to become entrepreneurs. They were much more confident and outgoing. So allowing them to learn something new and to pursue their passion, their interest, is a valuable learning. This is probably, here's a father teaching his young son how to use a car. Probably one of the most terrifying things for a parent to do is, as their teenager learns to drive. I know in some cultures they're not able to get a driver's license until they're an adult, until they're over 21 years old. And in the United States, they can get a driver's license around age 16. But at whatever age, there still needs to be that training, that teaching, maybe explaining why this is such an important skill, maybe working into it how to care for a car and how to care for yourself and others. But another important skill that parents become involved with their children. I think one of the most important things parents can teach children is learning how to manage money. Learning not only how to earn money, that's the easy part, but also learning how to save money, how to invest money. Understanding, developing a healthy relationship with money. There is some controversy on whether or not children should be given an allowance, and I will just share my opinion on that. Part of our responsibility, our goal as a parent, is to raise independent adults who can take care of themselves and give back to society. So I think we're naturally teaching them how to clean up after themselves, teaching them that when we eat a meal, dishes get dirty and they need to be cleaned. When we use a bathroom, that needs to be cleaned afterwards. When we take off our dirty clothes, what happens to them? What is our responsibility? And anything involved in cleaning up after themselves is just part of learning how to become an adult. But if there are extra assignments, like perhaps a father might want to hire his teenage son to clean out the garage, then that would be an opportunity for them to learn about money, learning how to earn it, how to manage it, decide how much do they want to put in savings, how much do they want to spend on fun times, and making those very important money decisions while they're young. This is excellent time to help prepare children. So again, overall objective in the most effective parenting style, which varies from person to person. Naturally, you bring your own personality into parenting. But as you focus on being responsive to your children, being engaged and involved in their life, committed to nurture them and care for them, and also maintaining a high level of providing structure and that guidance that helps prepare them, that teaches them how to make important decisions, how to think for themselves and make their own choices, how to have high standards, that ability to set lofty goals and then have the skills and the resilience to reach them. Remembering all along that our objective as a parent is to raise an independent, happy, and successful adult. That's what we want. And as we focus on that goal, it's like the old story of how do you plow a straight furrow if you're out in the field. And it's by focusing on a point on the opposite side of the field. Focus on this long-term goal. And as you are faced with decisions concerning your parenting, how to interact with your child, remember that goal of raising an independent, happy, and successful adult. And asking yourself, will this decision help my child to be more resilient, to be happier, to find success as an adult? And using that as a guide is really a critical approach to take to moving towards effective parenting. I want you to make sure you go to my website, healingyourfamilies.com. I am so excited about the opportunity to support you in this grand adventure of raising a child. And I have several resources that are free. Check them out. Some deal with parenting, some deal with emotions and relationships. And I invite you to schedule a complimentary 30-minute consultation. I'm happy to hear about any specific concerns you have. And I hope you will join me next week. Next week, we're going to be discussing the connection between responsibility and liberty. This is something that is well worth understanding yourself and then teaching it to your children. Thank you so much for joining me this week. And join me again next week at the same time. Tell your friends about this. And any episodes you can't catch live will be recorded and archived on our website. But until next week, love yourself, love your family, and remember, we're making the world a better place by strengthening families, one family at a time. Until then, I'm Emily Penrod with healingyourfamilies.com.